Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, August the 16th, and just a few minutes after 9 o'clock. So we are 30 minutes away from the open. And if we take a look at the international indices today, you can see that over in the Asian market in particular, things are flying higher. So we've got all of these indices in the green, and the majority of them over 1%, some over 3%, like the Nikkei. So it's interesting to see what's going on in APAC versus North American futures. So we had this morning at 8:30 the some data around U.S. home building and permits for new homes, and they were off significantly from expectation. So showing that there just isn't I'm not, maybe not confidence, but probably the financial capability to be making housing moves in the US. And a lot of that, I think, is probably tied to interest rates being much higher than they currently are for mortgages held on existing homes. So even though the price of the home may be in line, or your need to move to a larger home or even to downsize to a smaller home, depending on where you are in the cycle of life, you don't want to give up that lower mortgage that you have on your current property to get a different property but with a higher mortgage, because a smaller property may become just as expensive as the larger one with the increase in interest payments. So that's where we are today. I think we're going to see, as we get to the end of next week with the Jackson Hole Summit coming up and Federal U.S. Reserve Chair Jerome Powell speaking, that we're moving towards and tracking towards a first U.S. Fed interest rate cut in September. So it'll be interesting as we start to get more data points that are leaning that way, what we're going to see. But it looks like we're going to start the markets off today in the red. We've got the Dow off about 100 over 100 points. We've got your S&P futures off 28 here and the NASDAQ down 120, but this is fluid numbers as we head into the open. One of the things that I wanted to point out today was the narrative around AI, because we saw this week, but it came out in the earnings report conversation. And this has to do with Walmart. So you remember Walmart reported Thursday morning, stock jumped 6%, had a great day, and held that gain. It's retracting a little bit today, but maybe half a dollar, somewhere in that range, and it could be another buying opportunity. But what Walmart came out with was they said they're using generative AI to improve the data quality of their product catalog to generate better operating efficiency. And this is the first we're starting to hear. We heard from Facebook as well using AI, but this is where we're starting to see companies, large companies, actually start to give use cases for AI and demonstrate its value to the business. And I'm thinking of focusing now on the companies that are making these announcements, because I believe those are the front runners that are going to be propelled forward by the benefits of AI. So I'm definitely liking Walmart as a buy, a long-term buy and hold. Certainly buy it on any kind of dip, and Facebook or Meta as well, because both of those companies have talked about that. Now, I think what we'll also see is we're going to start to see other analysts start to take a look for those types of conversations and comments in the quarterly reports and the actual conference calls that take place from the executives of these corporations as they announce earnings. So let's be on the lookout for that as we move forward. If we move down into health and retail, Walmart is off about half a dollar. I think this is an attractive buying opportunity for this stock, but let's wait to see kind of what happens in the first 30 minutes of trading today. We've got Home Depot down. I'm surprised Home Depot had a good run yesterday, because its results were not as good earlier in the week as Walmart's, and yet I think just the broader market lifted that stock and many others up. We've got healthcare kind of mixed here, but again, the healthcare pre-market numbers a little bit ambiguous. They don't always translate into how they open. JB Hunt had a good day yesterday. Again, this is a surprise to me. This is a company whose price should be going down, in my opinion, as opposed to going up based on what it announced at its last quarterly results. And then CNR, same thing with a pending strike and some potential downtime for the railroad and railroads. I think this is a stock that should be going down in price, but it's clearly not. So I'm just waiting for that dip to come, and I certainly wouldn't be buying this. If anything, I would be shorting these two stocks. We now get down into oil, and crude futures have been on a roller coaster ride. We've got crude now down a buck 66. It was down lower earlier in the morning. It's rebounded to be down a buck 66. But this is something that, with all the tensions in the Middle East, I would expect to be driving towards the mid 80 range, and we're just not yet seeing that. So this is a waiting game, and I'm waiting it out. But I do believe that oil stocks are going to regain the highs they saw a few months ago and even surpass those as we go into the September, October time period. So I'm sticking to that belief right now until something comes up to change that. But tensions in the Middle East, if they do flare up again, I think will only support that business case. And now we get into tech. And yesterday, when we scrolled through our tech list, almost everything was green. Today, everything is almost red. And that's why it's critical to take your profits when you have profits and wait for a buying opportunity. So I sold out of most of my tech positions yesterday as they neared their highs. I'm not going to say I reached the highs or perfectly timed the highs. It's almost impossible to do that. I might have missed out on a little bit of gain, but I got my profits locked in. And what we can see is today, as the market opens, we may see that the data is actually showing a decrease in the NASDAQ, and we may have an off day. So this could, in fact, be a good buying opportunity. Couple of surprises here. Alibaba, looks like it's up $2.22 pre-market, even though it had bad earnings yesterday. They were not up to expectations. Growth forecasts weren't there, and yet this stock is trending upwards, which again is a bit of a surprise. Meta looks like it's going to be off about $5.50 at the open. I think if that were to drop back 10 or 15 bucks down to maybe the low 520s, that could be an attractive entry point. But again, we don't know what's going to happen over the weekend. We don't know what's going to happen on Monday. So I would not be buying these to hold them for a positive pop on Monday. Monday and next week, we're really starting to get into more consumer spending data. So we had Home Depot and Walmart announced this week. Next week, we have the likes of Macy's, Target. I think BJ Wholesale announces next week. We have Lowe's, the renovation store like Home Depot reporting next week. So it will be very interesting to see where the consumer strength is and where the business strength is across those different organizations. And then we get into the Jackson Hole Summit next week on Friday when we hear from Jerome Powell speaking about his thoughts on the economy, broader economy, jobs, and then obviously interest rates. So as we move into today, I'm going to be looking for opportunities in semis. One of the companies that I've done well in the last week has been LRCX, Lam Research. And Lam looks like it's going to be off almost 1.5%, almost 2% today. Had a great run yesterday, up over 5%. And I'm going to look to sell out or buy into some of this position again, depending on where this stock drops to. Starting the conversation on the video today, I talked about Walmart and what it was doing with AI. So again, as we start to see companies talk about the use of AI and how it's benefiting them, and we're starting to hear about real world use cases, I think it's going to be very positive for the likes of the semiconductor space. So I am very bullish on the likes of Lam Research. I think that'll get back up to an $1,100 stock by the early mid-fall. Let's call it November at the latest time frame when we get into the next cycle of earnings release data. I think Meta is going to be a $550 company, and I said that when it was back in the 490s or 510s. And then I also, excuse me, like Walmart From a use case perspective, I love NVIDIA. If NVIDIA pulls back, I think it's a strong buy. I like TSM as well. It had a great day yesterday. I think it has a lot more room to go. And one that we haven't heard from yet that has earnings later in September is Micron. And I think Micron, I mean, this was a $140 stock only, let's say, a month ago, and it's now down at 106 and was well below that in the last month. I think this is definitely going to be back up in the 140 range as we get into earnings for this company. And we're going to see those come out at the end of September. So this is a bit of a longer term play, but I do believe that it will benefit you well from a percentage gain if you get into this on a bit of a pullback. And we may see that today. We may see it today and Monday. But if this gets down under $100 or in the low hundreds, I would definitely be picking up some Micron. So that's where we are today. Good luck with your trades. If you're liking these videos, please tell someone to check out the channel and give me a like and a subscribe. Have a great day.